You are now listening to the Walking Leader podcast, episode number 235.
Welcome to the Walking Leader podcast. I am your host, David Guerra. The Walking Leader podcast is here to help give you the rules and the tools to help you succeed as a leader in your organization, as well as in your professional and personal life. So, in this episode of the Walking Leader podcast, we're going to continue on our 2022 series on self-leadership and talk about the soft skill of public speaking. So let's break it all down. Let's get the definitions and then let's get this show started. Self-leadership first is based on you. The definition is based on you, current and future leaders, taking the initiative and being proactive. A self-leader means you are intentionally influencing your thinking, your feelings, and your actions towards your objectives and goals, whether it be personal or professional or both. You must take that first step, second and third step to achieve those objectives or goals. Soft skills. Well, what are soft skills? Soft skills, interpersonal attributes that enable someone to interact effectively and harmoniously with other people while performing those technical or hard skills you have learned. And today's topic, public speaking. The definition of public speaking, according to the Merriam-Webster Dictionary, is the act or process of making speeches in public. The art of effective oral communication with an audience. So there it is. And what are the pros? What are the pros, the positive of public speaking? And according to the virtualspeech.com websites, their blog, they've got quite a pretty good list. And I'm going to go ahead and cover this. And as always, the links that I mentioned are in the show notes. So you're going to have to visit the website, daveguerra.com, and then go head on over to the podcast and get this episode 235, so you can get all that information there on the website. So here are some of the pros. I mean, it's a pretty good list, and I like it. It improves communication skills, first and foremost. Improving communication skills. Career advancement, because again, you're out there, you've got your confidence, which is the third one. It boosts your confidence. It increases your critical thinking skills. It enhances your personal development. It allows you to make new social connections, and definitely expands on personal satisfaction. It also expands your professional network. You learn to persuade through communicating in a public speaking forum. It builds leadership skills, and I'll cover a little bit more about that in just a bit. You learn performance skills. What it takes is not just standing up there and just saying the words, but it's also it's more performance as well. Developing your vocabulary and your fluency. Excellent. And of course, it minimizes the fear of impromptu speaking, and you should be able to just pick up something and go with it. And that's impromptu speaking. You learn to argue, and argue in a good way, not in a bad way. There is a bad way to argue, and there is a good way to argue. And sometimes when you argue in a good way, you can come out on top, and that's a good thing. It helps you drive change. So if you're trying to influence others, it definitely helps drive that change. And of course, it helps make you become a better listener. Now, what are the cons of public speaking? Now, obviously, there are not as many because, again, there's more pros than there are cons, but these cons are definitely the downside of public speaking. Definitely is something that, you're going to have to pay attention to. And the website penandthepad.com mentions the following when it comes to the cons of public speaking. It can be stress-inducing to give a presentation or a speech. It's also time-consuming, as there are hours of planning and writing and practicing involved with any public speaking engagement. There is also the risk of embarrassment and failure, which can deplete self-esteem, although the audience typically notices far less errors than the speaker imagines. And I say this and I do this when I make a mistake here, I'll go back and correct myself. But at some point, they're just going along with the content that they fill in their own blanks. Even if I make a mistake or I omit a word, it's the same thing with the written word. If I will write something out, but it's long and I omit a word, the mind fills in because it's following along in that path of what I'm trying to communicate. So being an effective communicator, people will pick up less on the errors and more on the message. So something to think about. But again, you, me, we are our own worst enemies. So it comes as no surprise that We will notice our own failures, our own mistakes long before the audience does. Alrighty, so what are the various forms of public speaking? And again, there's only really three. One-on-one communication. You're there and you're talking to somebody one-on-one. One-to-many. That's also pretty much standard. And then, of course, there's the one to the very many. Now, those are those super speakers, those mega speakers, the ones that can stand in front of 10, 20, 30, 40,000, 50,000 people and talk to them like it's a one-on-one situation. And that's a good orator. That's a good speaker. That's someone who knows their audience. That's someone who knows their message. That's someone who has both a good grasp of what they want to say, how to say it, and who they're saying it to, and they understand that. So really, it all basically just trickles down to the very basics of the form. The very basic form of public speaking should always be one-to-one. Talk to them like you're talking to just one person. So in this case, I'm just looking at you, and I'm talking to you. Others are listening to this podcast, but I'm talking to you, and you know who you are. So that's a good thing. And it should always be that way because it shows engagement. It shows that you're connecting with individuals. It shows that, hey, I understand you, and hopefully you're understanding what I'm trying to say. So that's a good thing. Now, why is the soft skill of public speaking important? As I mentioned in everything I've said up to this point, how to properly convey the message, your message, to those you're trying to inform or influence. So the cons and the pros and the forms of public speaking, again, you need to properly convey your message. You have a message you have to share with everyone. Well, know how to properly convey that message. And public speaking also moves you from behind the scenes into the light, into the spotlight, putting you on the fast track to becoming a subject matter expert. And that's a good thing. Because the more you stand out there, the more you speak, the more you're out there putting your words out there, putting your voice out there, people become familiar with it, and they start associating you with the subject that you're talking about. And that also is a very good thing, especially if you want to become a subject matter expert, then you do what it takes and you're out there talking and talking and talking. Because you become a subject matter expert, it makes you the person, it makes you the go-to person. That's the person people want to turn to and go to because you have put yourself out there and you have made yourself a subject matter expert. So realizing that, it is an important soft skill. As a leader, as a current future leader, an up-and-coming leader, you want to get out there and you want to ensure that you are confident in what you're saying and you can say it without issue, without hesitation and reservation. And that definitely will not just make you a subject matter expert, but it makes you the go-to person, the person that people will turn to in those situations, in those times when they need to find somebody, and guess what? You're it. And that's a good thing. So what to look for when public speaking, when you're being a public speaker, what to look for? Well, let's use the 7 habits of highly effective people. This is that point in the episode where I like to draw on those 7 habits. And this one, for the first one of this series, this is the one that has 4 habits. You're being proactive because you're out there speaking, you're out there conveying your message, so you're being proactive. That's habit 1. You think win-win because you're trying to inform and influence people. You're trying to share with them, hey, look, this is what works. This is what I believe in. This is where I'm at. And I want you to believe and join me in that way of thinking, believing, acting, behaving, and doing. So it's a think win-win. You're already winning. You want them to win too. Habit number 5, seek first to understand, then to be understood. Well, you just don't walk up. Sure, you can do impromptu speaking, but even in the impromptu speaking, you should have a good, clear grasp of what's going on, of what the subject is. So you need to be well-versed, well-read. You need to understand. And anything you read and review and watch and see and take in and absorb, do so with an open mind because it's 360 degrees and you don't know who you're going to be going up against when you're talking to somebody. And not in a negative sense, but who your audience is. So understand that you need to understand what's going on and what you're going to be talking about before you start talking about it. And of course, habit number 7, sharpen the saw. Habit number 7, sharpen the saw. When it comes to public speaking, do it. Do it as often as you can, when you can. Heck, even start a podcast. I encourage you because, again, it gets you out there, gets you speaking. Yeah, you're talking to the microphone, but you're talking to that one person who's listening to your podcast. And of course, as always, I thank you for listening, for taking the time to listen, download, and listen to this point. I do appreciate you. Recognize them. And that's how you become better. Because you're always sharpening that saw. You're always taking the opportunity to speak in a public manner, a public forum. Now, how and when to public speak? Well, when should you be publicly speaking? Your elevator pitch. And I might have mentioned this before, your elevator pitch. But there's always a time and a place for it. Not every opportunity should be your elevator pitch, your 30-second elevator pitch. Sometimes people just need to know the name of your organization. That's enough. Drop a hint. Sometimes they just need to know where you stand. Again, drop a hint sometimes. But you don't have to keep going, well, this, and this. Visit my website for more information. But if you just let them know that daveguerra.com is your website, then let it be on them to go visit and find out more information. When you are asked to speak publicly, say yes, say please, and say thank you. Most of all, please say thank you. And on top of all of that, deliver. Step up and say, yeah, I'll do it. I'll publicly speak. I will present. I have no problem doing so. And of course, there'll be those times when the situation calls for it. It may be a random situation. It may be an anticipated situation where somebody might say, hey, look, we might need you to step in, fill in the blank for somebody might not show up. Hey, it doesn't matter. So if you're not the first choice, give them everything you got so the next time you are the first choice. If you're a backup, you're an up-and-coming public speaker, no worries. Let them know you're available. If they need a backup, you're going to be on standby, ready to rock and roll. Let them know that next time, when the next time rolls around, hey, you know what? Dave was ready to publicly speak. Dave was ready with his presentation. Let's bring him in this time, because you never know. And again, when publicly speaking or speaking in public, keep the old adage in mind. I said it last episode. I'm going to say it again. Read the room. Understand what's going on. Understand the room. Understand why you're there. Understand who your audience is. Even if you have no time, understand. Have to some degree an understanding of what's going on. Because again, if you don't read the room, you're going to be leaving the room. And it's just that simple. So what if when you're out there publicly speaking, it fails, you fail, it fails, you've stumbled, you've fallen? Well, it's going to happen. It happened to me. Yeah, it happened to me. I'm not too proud. I'm going to share with you. It happened to me. I got the message across. I shared the information I needed to share. All the T's were crossed and the I's were dotted, but I just didn't have them. I didn't have them. They got the information. They asked questions, a lot of great questions, but I just didn't have them. And this was early on in public speaking. I haven't done very much since then. I've been more behind the scenes. But again, it's one of those situations that when I'm ready to step up, I say, hey, I got you. I'm here for your backup, ready to rock and roll. And of course, since then, I've done a couple. Not a lot, but I'm still out there. I'm ready. So, hey, if you're looking for a public speaker, by all means. But what I'm getting at is that if you stumble, you fall, take that moment as a learning experience. Take that moment to build from. And do not be discouraged. Do not be discouraged. Most of all, you're going to stumble. You're going to fall. Don't be discouraged. It's going to happen. Get it in your head that it's going to happen. But also what else is going to happen is that you're going to get back up again and you're going to try again. I'm not afraid. I've stumbled, I've fallen, and it'll happen again. I guarantee it. But hey, that just makes for better storytelling later on down the road. Well, I stumbled 75 times and I got up on that 76 and that was it. That's what it took. But you know what? I had to get through all 75 times. If that's the case, whatever the case may be. But you get back up again. I cannot stress that enough. Now, can the soft skill of public speaking be mastered? Straight to the point, the answer is yes. Every time you stand up in front of one, stand up in front of a few, or stand up in front of many, you are working to master the skill, the soft skill of public speaking. Because with this one, this is true. The more you practice, the better you get. There's no two ways around it. It's going to happen. You are going to get better and better so long as you continue to get back up again. So with that being said, public speaking, whether you're talking to one, you're talking to many, or a whole lot of people, it's going to take time. It's something that you're going to eventually master, but just to publicly speak, be prepared that it's going to be time consuming, planning, writing, practicing. And of course, if there's some failure, you get back up again. That's without a doubt. The expectation is to get back up again. But hey, it's going to improve your communication skills. It's going to boost your confidence. It's going to improve your social connections. It's going to expand your professional network. It's going to help build leadership skills. It's going to improve performance skills. It's going to help you develop your vocabulary, influence, and fluency. There it goes. But either way, it also helps you to learn to argue and argue in a good way. But most of all, as a leader, as a current future leader, as an up-and-coming leader, public speaking helps you become a better listener. And hey, that's what we need in leadership. That's what we need, more leaders that will listen. So with that being said, don't forget to visit the website, the show notes. That way you have all the links to the websites that I mentioned in today's episode. And of course, I'm going to share some links to books, audiobooks, ebooks on the how-tos of public speaking. A couple there I really, really like, and I'll share those with you there on the website. So without any more, this is it. That's it for this week's episode of the Walking Leader podcast. And I do ask you to chime in, either leave a note, a comment, drop me an email. What do you think about this episode 235 on public speaking? And of course, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, hey, don't hesitate to reach out. I know you're listening. I appreciate you listening, but hey, let me know what you're thinking. So reach out to me on Twitter at Dave Guerra, all one word, or drop me a line on email at dave@daveguerra.com. And of course, you can leave a voice message at the Walking Leader hotline at 956-720-0060. So I definitely want to hear from you. I want to know what you're thinking, and let me know. Let me know what you think of these soft skills series. And I want to thank you for your time. I do appreciate you making it to this point in the episode. I am David Guerra, the author of The Walking Leader and Great to Follow. And I invite you to subscribe to The Walking Leader podcast on iTunes, Spotify, Spreaker, Stitcher. And you can find all these links at my website, daveguerra.com. So visit there. And lastly, before I let you go, I want to remind you to always go beyond the grind and go beyond the hustle, because that is the only way to be the walking leader, and a leader that is truly great to follow. Until next time, I thank you. Take care.
The Walking Leader podcast is a David Guerra presentation.